That's my opinion on why nobody is talking about a rather significant piece of legislation. Anyway, thank you, David. And now, an exit interview with the guy who 20 years ago called the Orange County bankruptcy and has spent the years since fighting against other reckless government spending, making many friends and a few powerful enemies in the process. Joining me, Orange County Supervisor John Moorlach. John, always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Rick. Great to be here.
Just for folks who may not be familiar with you, your reputation is that you're a reformer. You're a leading expert in municipal finance. Other treasurers around the country call you for advice whenever the New York Times or other publications are doing stories about a Detroit failure or something else. You're the guy frequently that they call to get opinions. So many years ago you warned about this bankruptcy. Everybody said you were out of place, you were causing trouble, stirring a hornet's nest, and lo and behold, it came true just a few months later. You became the treasurer, and then instead of staying in a job, you'd been reelected twice, could have been there forever, you know, but great job. You took a pay cut to run for supervisor, and now you're termed out. So why aren't you running again? For some office. Why aren't you running for, there's a congressional seat open, why aren't you running for something?
Thank you, Rick. I've had 20 years, which is really great for someone who came out of the private sector as a partner in a CPA firm. A lot longer than perhaps I thought I would be an elected official. I did look at some options, certainly had plenty of them to look at, from governor down to state assembly or auditor controller. Certainly looked at running for the 45th congressional district and actually open an account and move forward. Had some issues where I kind of slowed down a little bit because my granddaughter was moving to Wisconsin. I wanted to focus on family time. But the final analysis was that I'm more of a policy wonk than a candidate type elected official. I spend more of my time on issues and research and doing the job as opposed to making the phone calls and allocating hours of time to be a candidate. So I was not doing a good job, I would say, in the candidate role because I made doing my primary job my priority, and so I just decided to back out, and now I'm kind of looking forward to getting back to real life.
Some folks, including me, would say that's an indictment of the political system. The one thing as a office holder that I think you were pretty lousy at was raising money. You're not a fundraiser. You're not a guy that raised a lot of money. And in a congressional race, you need that. I think that's what you're partially alluding to, is that you didn't have the money. You're a policy wonk. People say they want...
I would like rebut, because I've watched people in my industry. And so you've got like Gray Davis, who spent every morning making phone calls. It was a great fundraiser. But he was a lousy policymaker.
Yeah, that's what
we recalled him. So it kind of gets back to your prior story. What is the balance? Where do we have too much of one or the other? So if an elected official has to spend so much time raising money and so much time doing his job, I decided I wanted to spend more time doing my job, hoping that supporters would recognize that, hey, you've got somebody who's really doing the job as opposed to just grandstanding or just doing things to get his name in the paper for whatever reason, but someone who's actually getting things accomplished. And that wave of support didn't come up either. So, where the balance is, I don't know, but I take it as a compliment that I'm a bad fundraiser.
and I meant it that way when I said it, but sometimes I think, the voters say they want people that stick with issues, and a guy like you, in a perfect world, I think you'd be running for governor, but it's not a perfect world.
Let's just chop this place up into 6 pieces, and I'll take one of them.
Okay. That worked pretty well. Let me ask you, what do you think the biggest problem is facing the state of California?
Oh, it's got one of the worst financial statements in the nation. You and I have talked metrics, but I use a metric to try and determine the fiscal well-being of a municipality. The state of California places 46th out of 50. So we have to thank Connecticut, New Jersey, Illinois, and Massachusetts that we're not in last place. But we've got to do some incredible debt pay down, and we've got to do it quickly. Fortunately, at least Governor Brown gets it.
Yeah, and we hear now, Governor Brown gets it, and the economy's coming back. Budget's in much better shape.
We're certainly riding an incredible little slow recovery. We've got the Dow at 17,000 approximately. But that almost puts you at a point where you need to be real concerned because cycles happen. So the Dow could drop dramatically. You could have major losses in your pension plan. Interest rates could rise. You could have major losses in your bond portfolio. And we're back to having massive unfunded liabilities again because we weren't paying in prudently all along. So we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, but we certainly have to build some disciplines with our finances, more than just a rainy day fund.
Okay. You warned about the bankruptcy, and you also warned then a few years later about an emerging problem at a time when nobody else was talking about it, and that was these unfunded pension liabilities, the rising cost to government of taking care of all these obligations that have been made to retired employees. Or to employees' future retirements. That brought you into a lot of conflict with unions. Talk about that.
Well, the Government Accounting Standards Board has not required governments to put unfunded liabilities on their balance sheet. So if it's in the shadows, you can play with it. If you don't have to say to an elected official, hey, if we go from 2% at 50 to 3% at 50, which is a formula that's used to determine pension benefits at retirement, 2% times the number of years you've worked for the government times your final salary, it goes up 50%. Right. And if you say, hey, it's retroactive to the date of hire, it creates a 50% increase in your debt. But no one says, here, you know, you're picking up this massive debt. They don't get that information when they make the votes. So you can manipulate things, and I would say that a lot of elected officials were manipulated thinking everything was fine because, hey, back then there was another stock market that was doing really well.
Let me ask you, you were a leading, I want to get into the politics of it. When Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Republican, became governor, did he ever call you and say, John, I want your help on pensions?
No. Arnold and I never really communicated. He came out for a fire once and barely shook my hand. You know, even the Assembly Republicans, when they met with him in a closed room, they'd have to wear name tags. He was a very independent solo flyer.
You have.
I have a better relationship with Jerry Brown. We're on a first-name basis, have fun debates.
And he talks to you about pensions?
Grudgingly.
Okay.
But yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that's, there was...
and his pension reform included a lot of components that I've been, you know, promulgating for a long time.
So maybe you're making, you have made some difference.
Oh, I believe I have, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You, among those you have taken on, I've seen no other politician do this, are judges. Nobody wants to take on judges. But you at one point actually said that judges were making rulings on pensions in their own self-interest, that they had a conflict of interest. You are essentially saying that judges were corrupt. I think that's an extension of what you're saying. Did you ever get any blowback on that?
No, not that I'm aware of. But there are a lot of others that have written articles subsequent to my comments that have said, yeah, there is a definite conflict of interest here. It's a little awkward when the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court has a husband who's a retired sergeant from the police department. It's just an awkward thing to explain.
Nobody else says those kinds of things, John. You know. Anyway,
but it's true. Okay. You know.
Well,
so you can infer what you want, but these judges. I mean, there was the very argument that they made at the appellate court level. They hired a retired appellate court judge and said, "I can explain this. They're talking about your pension. They're talking about mine." And she sat down. No citations. No nothing. And then the judges ruled that it was not a debt. It was an estimate. I mean, that is egregious.
Yeah. In Orange County, there's a public corruption probe going on, or so we're told. There were some reports a year ago the FBI was looking at corruption in Orange County. What do you think of that?
Well, it seems to be all in secret, so I don't know what is going on, Rick. We hear rumors of an FBI DA task force. We see the grand jury now the second time in a row saying we need to have some kind of ethics commission. Somebody knows something that I don't know. I haven't been interviewed. I haven't been talked to by anyone from the FBI or the district attorney's office. I don't know what.
Does that concern you? Maybe that you're a target?
No, I'm not worried at all. No, I think I've been pretty up to snuff on what's required. I've tried to be the elected official that I would want other elected officials to be. I wanted to be someone that wouldn't embarrass my family or anyone else. That I've tried to, everything I've said, even though I've been blown off, has been rather accurate. I would think, you know, everyone says, why are you saying that? And then they realize a few years later, oh, that's why he's saying it. Now look at the mess we're in. I think when I return your calls, when you or tape
no
them.
public official I've ever encountered is more accessible than you. Let me ask you, as you're now leaving office, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of government and politics in California?
I'm actually pessimistic. The federal government is at 17 trillion plus, you know, plus their unfunded liabilities. The state is in really poor shape. You know, the County of Orange, as much as we try, we're at $5.5 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. We've made some strides. We've hemmed in our retiree medical, but it's still a tough gig. And as we said at the beginning of our conversation, you get more people that are more interested in being elected than doing the job. So I see a lot of my colleagues in elected positions that it's really hard to step back and say, what have they accomplished? What have they? What initiatives have they taken on?
Thank you, John. Well, anyways, it's been a pleasure to watch you, and I can tell you, the fixers, the cronies, the spinners are going to celebrate when you leave at the end of the year. Unfortunately. Anyway, thanks for coming on. You can watch this show and past shows at rickreiff.com. Segments of the show can also be viewed at pbssocal.org. My guest has been John Moorlach, and a special thanks to Aaron Brockovich and Brett Barbary. And of course, thank you for watching. We'll see you again on SoCal Insider.
SoCal Insider with Rick Reiff is brought to you by the following. 5 Point Communities is a proud sponsor of PBS SoCal. 5 Point Communities is an independent real estate development company with assets under management across California. More information available at www.fivepointcommunities.com. Snell & Wilmer is a full-service business law firm with more than 400 attorneys practicing throughout the West and in Mexico. With offices in Los Angeles and Orange County, Snell & Wilmer celebrates 25 years in Southern California. Online at swlaw.com. Skits. In our technology-driven world where constant connection to electronic devices is a way of life, Skits Tech Cases keep your electronic cords and accessories portable and organized so you can stay connected. For more information, visit skitsproducts.com. A healthy future for you, your family, and your business is why Memorial Care Health System transformed healthcare. Our hospitals, physicians, and outpatient centers keep patients healthy and care for them when they're not. Memorial Care, one healthcare system leading the way.
Our innovations in medical imaging are mapping the future of healthcare. When we started, I believed we could compete with these giants in this industry. City National believes in ICRCO, and that's what makes the relationship work. City National is the way up for our business.